On May 30th, 2020, myself and friends prepared to protest the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, and Ahmaud Arbery in downtown Chicago. We weren't really sure what to expect since so many protests in the country have seemed to explode rapidly with armed policemen using physical force on peaceful, unarmed protesters. So we did things like make signs and write different bailout organizations on our arms in Sharpie ink. We hopped on the CTA and our train was filled with protesters headed to the same event as we were. There was an eerie silence on the train, and after capturing a little bit of footage, I turned off my camera and closed my eyes to meditate a little and said a couple of prayers. When we arrived to the protest, the energy was exciting, loud, filled with hope, and I could immediately tell it was different from any other protest I've ever been to before. The first hour of the protest felt safe and relaxed. While the body language of the protesters was at ease, everyone was serious and on point with their messaging, though. Nobody said anything overtly violent or offensive to the police from what I could tell. After that first hour, the police presence became noticeably antagonistic and controlling towards the protesters, who were unarmed and behaving peacefully. And that's when everything changed. The protest began at 2 o'clock, and by 4:30, the CTA trains were shut down and the bridges had been lifted. This made it so that any protesters who were downtown were now stuck there. The mayor also issued a 9 p.m. curfew, and anyone caught out past it would be arrested. At this point, I left my friends to go get my girlfriend. We planned to rendezvous afterwards. When I walked onto a bridge to get to the other side of Michigan Avenue where my partner was, I was greeted by police, hit with a baton, and forced to leave the bridge. When I finally got to my girlfriend, we never made it back to my friends. We ended up following organizers to what would be the breaking point of the day, and I didn't get the violence on film. We marched for about 30 minutes and were abruptly stopped at an intersection by a line of cops. After we asked them to let us through for about 20 minutes, organizers said we should leave and find a new route. As we turned our backs and started leaving, the cops started slamming batons into our backs. This escalated the situation and caused people to stand their ground. In the blink of an eye, I found myself jumping into the middle of an altercation between the cops and protesters because many of the people being assaulted needed help. The officers hit me in the ribs and arms a few times. Simultaneously, my girlfriend and her new friend that she made at the protest were getting hit with batons for trying to stop the police from trampling over a few teenage girls who they had flung to the ground for not moving fast enough. The cops then came zooming down the street in cars and spraying mace. All of this is to say that the protests don't have a looting component inherently embedded in them. If it isn't white supremacists or the cops that are looting and setting stuff on fire, then the protesters who are responsible are doing it because they are pissed that the cops wouldn't let them gather and march peacefully. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a combination of these groups doing the looting. People are angry, and that's okay. The media and those in opposition to the protests and how they've been occurring keep focusing on the looting, and that's so the public doesn't focus on the fact that the police are hindering our First Amendment and using force on us. There's an insidious culture in the police force, but this is an uprising, and I really do feel like things are changing.
George Floyd! George Floyd!